Tama, once a valiant holy knight, met an unfortunate end, devoured by demons and seemingly lost forever. Yet, fate intervened. God, in a twist of irony, reincarnated him as a creature of legend, the Behemoth, an S-class magical beast reigning supreme among quadruped predators. In his past life, S-class monsters were forces of nature, capable of leveling entire nations. Now, our young man, reborn in this terrifying form, grappled with a new reality. He was a helpless kitten, utterly clueless about combat. The scene shifts to the bustling city, where Arya, an adventurous elf girl, prepares for her daily quest. As usual, she heads to the Adventurers Guild, encountering the familiar presence of the S-rank soldier lingering near the dungeon entrance. A poignant irony, from a knight, he was reborn as a cat. Yet, a strange sense of acceptance washed over him. Living like this isn't so bad after all, he mused. Fate had spoken, and so, the skinny cat faced his first challenge, a lowly E-rank slime, weak and arrogant. Initially amused, Tama checked his skills and discovered a surprising talent. Sneezing. With a mighty wheeze, the arrogant slime met its demise. Starving, Tama tentatively tasted the defeated foe. To his astonishment, the slime was surprisingly delicious, resembling jelly. Not only did it satisfy his hunger, but it also granted him a new skill, consuming and storing the creature's essence within his inventory. Meanwhile, Arya, embarking on a boat journey towards a nearby labyrinth, followed the usual protocol, presenting her guild card to the guards. Deeper within the labyrinth, Tama encountered a B-rank Veen, a weaker relative of dragons. With a swift attack, the kitten dispatched the creature, much to the astonishment of the S-rank soldiers. Tama, a force of nature unleashed, effortlessly preyed upon the dungeon's inhabitants. From cows to rocks, every creature was fair game. Even Orochimaru's legendary serpent, Manda, became a mere snack. Unaware of these extraordinary events, Arya navigated the labyrinth, using a special stone to unlock passageways to deeper levels. Stumbling upon a treasure chest, Tama, driven by curiosity, eagerly opened it. Inside, a magnificent magic stone shimmered, rarity even in his previous life. However, the stone was tainted black, a consequence of its fiery teleportation. Fate, it seemed, had thrown Tama into a thrilling, if unexpected, adventure. He had crossed paths with another S-class monster, a colossal dragon. The disparity in size was undeniable. How can I possibly fight something that weighs a ton? Tama pondered. Moreover, the dragon, a creature of instinct, possessed a strong protective nature. The territorial guard roared, "Do you wish to die, you insolent creature? Disturbing my slumber is a grave offense." Then, with a sickening thud, the dragon's claw struck. This is the end, Tama thought, struggling against the crushing blow. Miraculously, his newly acquired hardening skill mitigated the damage, but his legs were crippled. The Earth Dragon, surprised by Tama's resilience, prepared for another attack. But before it could strike again, Tama, in a desperate act of survival, sprouted wings and fled the scene, not before delivering a parting shot that enraged the colossal beast. Meanwhile, Arya, haunted by the memory of her rescue from demons by a mysterious benefactor, found herself drawn to the very location where Tama had been near death. Coincidentally, this was where she had first encountered him, a tiny, helpless kitten. She remembered the day she found him, injured and seemingly lifeless. She had nursed him back to health, carefully tending to his wounds. A young female student, a kind soul, had assisted her, making Arya feel like she was surrounded by angels. To her surprise, Tama, instead of fearing her, saw her as a savior. He was treated like royalty, lavished with a daily platter of 5 fruits. Despite being fully healed, Arya continued to care for him, a deep bond forming between them. In gratitude, Tama swore allegiance to Arya, vowing to protect her with his life. He silently followed her on her adventuring quests, concerned for her safety. Though not exceptionally strong, Arya possessed incredible speed, making her a formidable opponent against D-rank demons. However, their peaceful routine was shattered by the appearance of a mutated goblin wielding unexpected magic. Arya, taken aback, found herself aided by Tama, who swiftly dispatched the creature. Arya, witnessing Tama's involvement, was understandably shocked. "Why is he here?" she exclaimed. As a reward, Tama was granted a luxurious platter of 2 grapefruits, much to his delight. Later, while enjoying a meal at the guild, they were accosted by a lecherous adventurer, Casimir, who had long coveted Arya. Despite her refusals, Casimir persisted, his advances becoming increasingly aggressive. Enraged by Kazamin's disrespect towards his beloved master, Tama sprang into action, biting the man. He then unleashed a flurry of scratches, drawing blood. Kazamin, infuriated, attempted to draw his sword, but was intercepted by the guild's female guard, preventing further escalation. Anna reminded him of the guild's rules. No fighting. This woman, a former B-rank adventurer, commanded respect. They advised Arya to inform them of any trouble and praised Tama for his courage in protecting his owner. This was the second time Arya had been saved by Tama, so she named him Tama. From that point on, Tama was allowed to accompany Arya on her quests. Anna, overjoyed that her little M was on the verge of promotion, took Tama out for a playful romp. Her playful touches, however, accidentally landed on Tama's sensitive spots, eliciting a pained yelp. Tama realized his owner, though spirited, had a weakness for alcohol and a tendency to become easily intoxicated. He watched in dismay as she disappeared into the bath, feeling a pang of humiliation despite being a former knight. Yet, witnessing her generous curves, he momentarily forgot his dignity and followed her in. Arya, startled, asked Tamama if he could become stronger. Her hometown was frequently plagued by demons, and she yearned to become a sword saint, inspired by a legendary hero who had once protected her people. Tama, having heard the hero's tale, vowed to support Arya in her quest. The next day, as they strolled through town, Arya's kind nature drew smiles and greetings from the locals. However, their peaceful outing was disrupted by Kazamin, who, despite Arya's repeated refusals, continued to press his advances. Seeing Kazamin's aggression, Tama bristled with fury. Kazamin, emboldened by his connections with Baron Arya, had ordered a hit on Tama. Anna, powerless to intervene, pleaded with Kazamin, desperate to save Tama's life. Kazamin, feigning magnanimity, proposed a duel. If Arya won, the order would be rescinded. If she lost, she would be forced to become his wife. The duel, held under the watchful eyes of the townsfolk, was about to begin. Arya, a D-rank against a C-rank adventurer, was clearly outmatched. Though allies offered support, none dared to defy Kazamin's powerful connections. Seeing Arya's predicament, Tama resolved to fight alongside her. Kazamin scoffed at the idea of a cat posing any threat. The battle commenced. Tama, drawing attention to himself, allowed Arya to attack Kazamin, his disdain for the man palpable. He had chosen a secluded location for the duel, confident in his ability to escape if necessary. However, his initial attack was easily dodged. Fearing that using his S-rank skills would reveal his true identity, Tama relied on his natural instincts. Arya, anticipating his move, leaped to protect him. However, Kazamin, anticipating her speed, kicked her, inflicting serious injuries. The crowd, aware of Arya's exceptional speed, understood that she was outmatched. If Tama failed to intervene, they would all lose. Arya refused to surrender, continuing to rain arrows upon her despicable opponent. She was determined to teach him a lesson, to make him understand the consequences of attacking a defenseless elf. Tamama, realizing that using his full power would be unnecessary and potentially reveal his true nature, opted for a more subtle approach. He hardened his body, shattering Kazamin's weapon with a single, well-aimed blow. Then, with a ferocious roar, he sent Kazamin flying through the air, the sword hilt deep into his balls. The crowd erupted in cheers, celebrating the valiant defense of their beloved Arya. Whispers circulated among the onlookers, speculating about Tamama's true nature. Some suspected he might be an S-class Behemoth, but Anna and Arya, with knowing smiles, simply referred to him as an elemental cat. Despite the victory, a tinge of sadness lingered within Tamama. He was, after all, an S-class monster, reduced to the status of a pet. And yet, as he looked into Arya's grateful eyes, he realized that perhaps this life, filled with unexpected joys and unexpected challenges, wasn't so bad after all. A few days later, Tama woke up on Arya's large, round breasts, feeling like sleeping like this every night was truly great. This girl really enjoyed being Iron Man, and even allowed Tama to lick her cheek. This part is extremely sensitive for elves like her, but suddenly she felt like she loved the skinny cat more, and wanted to do it a few more times. Tama was shocked. He didn't expect the owner to. Later, the couple went to the familiar blacksmith shop of her friend. At first glance, they could see that this girl belonged to the cat clan. Recently, adventurers had been gossiping about Tama, so this woman also liked Arya very much. She proudly introduced Tama as her little elemental cat. She seemed excited and wanted to hug him. Seeing that this person was very kind and close to the owner, he also acted close, lying on the other person's chest. Although it wasn't as terrifying as Arya's, it was still enough for Tama to roll around comfortably. For the elf girl, meeting Tama was like a dream. He thought, I never thought touching a girl's breasts would be so easy. I need to ask what they came here for today. Was it about the weapon Arya placed here last time? Actually, she came for something else. She wanted this friend to make light armor for her cat. Hearing that, Tama's eyes lit up because he found this matter truly interesting. They shook hands and measured him because he was still growing, so the size would need to be adjusted to last as long as possible. After knowing that Tama had special abilities, Arya also invited him to explore the dungeon with her. Of course, he swore to protect his master. That whole night, he didn't sleep and was busy creating the armor for Tamama. The armor was finished the next morning. In general, because of his small size, it was done very quickly. Arya praised it, saying it was even cuter than before. He knew that his friend had stayed up all night to do this, so he silently thanked the two beautiful sisters. Then they talked about Arya's twin swords. Because of her speed, she needed the lightest weapon possible to maximize her inherent abilities. The materials will weaken the sword and make it more prone to damage. The elf looked sad because she still couldn't master the dual swords. She sought a solution and invited her friend to create a temporary team to fight monsters together. Observing Arya's fighting style, the blacksmith might have an idea for forging new weapons later. All three were present on the first floors. Vundsen, a C-rank adventurer, was still very strong. She used a hammer, wielding it with the strength of a beast. Seeing this, one had to admit that this woman was stronger than the members of the tiger-armed clan. She also possessed a skill called magic resistance that allowed her to absorb fire magic into her hand and then pierce the monster. Arya found it strange. After inquiring, she learned that it was a type of blacksmithing skill, like her own. People here called it the derivative skill. Suddenly, a lecherous pig appeared, smelling the scent of the conqueror. It drooled and desired them both. This time, it was Arya's turn to act. The sight of the target was disgusting, but she still had to fight the unpredictable pig. Having learned to fight since childhood, she was able to block its attack. Just as she was about to slash, the elf jumped up and blocked the pig with her indestructible diamond body. Taking advantage of the opportunity, the elf slashed at the opponent's head. Although they had won, Arya wasn't happy. She realized she was too weak even after leveling up. She felt like she was just pretending to be a warrior. She noticed that the long sword hindered her friend's movements, and she knew she needed to get stronger quickly. The blacksmith also invited her downstairs, where there were mainly slimy monsters that made her drool. She imagined herself fighting these creatures, needing to devise many plans. Hearing this, Arya cheered up and told the cat to follow her immediately. She used terrifying speed to slash towards the monster. However, this monster reacted very quickly, attacking with 8 arms. The big grapefruit girl found it very difficult to approach. If it kept moving like that, her owner wouldn't be able to defeat the hideous monster. Tama entered the battle and knocked away one of Arya's swords. Seeing this, she pushed her limits. After her body became slightly lighter, she fought evenly with the creature. However, she still had many weaknesses and was almost destroyed by the monster. Arya immediately switched to a short knife, and she successfully defeated it. It turned out that this was the most suitable fighting style for the elf. Tama realized that his owner's movements were very different from before. He felt like using both hands simultaneously would make her more confident. After seeing through the opponent's movements, Arya easily dodged and nearly cut off a few arms. Unfortunately, mucus was sprayed all over her face. Seeing this, she didn't want to go in. Tama heard his owner's groans and looked at her with wide eyes, showing resentment at being humiliated in front of the kitten. So he rushed in and launched a finishing blow, cutting the monster into pieces with a new skill. It seemed that after finding a suitable short weapon and accumulating experience, Arya awakened in the middle of battle. She saw the corpse and wanted to eat it to gain skills, but the taste was so bad and bitter. Luckily, she got what she wanted. It allowed her to mate with another species. The elf was shooting arrows endlessly, infuriating the corpse and leaving the other two helpless. A moment later, they went outside, and Arya explained that she had chosen a striped weapon because she admired the Holy Sword Lord when she was young. Although she knew she had no talent, she stubbornly used it. But now, to become stronger, she would give it up and follow that benefactor's example. Tama enthusiastically supported her, knowing that his mistress would surely become stronger. They needed to think about the next floor, but they must rest first. On this floor, there was a safe area for adventurers to relax, thanks to a stone placed by a sage. All creatures lower than A class dared not approach, so they could freely bathe without worrying about the surroundings. Looking at the stone, Arya suddenly remembered the time when the village was attacked. The blacksmith changed his clothes, so she took them all off. Thomas stood there, and saw everything but still maintained some dignity. He was trying to calm down when suddenly the owner called him to take a bath. He couldn't resist and had to swim with the two girls. The girl here, Arya, asked her friend what kind of team she would normally go on an expedition with. When mentioned this, she started crying because, in fact, everyone had already disbanded. She still hadn't found any new teammates yet. This little story tells about the elemental cat's ability to mate with other species. Arya is reminded to be careful, or she will be pinned down and get pregnant. She's still a child. He hadn't said anything yet, but when it's mating season, he doesn't know what she'll do. He thought the elf would be scared. Who would have thought that she was even more excited, hoping for it to happen? She also fondled Tama, telling him to grow up quickly and not take away her first time. He couldn't be happier with such a request, was shocked and shocked. Who would have thought this friend could be so lewd? Later, they encountered a large minotaur. This C-class creature, with its weapon, could be considered close to B-class. The blacksmith was only at rank C, so both sides would have to cooperate to defeat it. Arya initiated the attack with extreme speed, but she couldn't inflict any damage on the monster. She rushed in and swung her hammer, but the minotaur was large and carried a shield. The couple persistently scratched the itch, infuriating the opponent. The minotaur would eventually die after a long fight, but there was no need to risk it. The cat witnessed his owner's performance and was very surprised. Her breasts were so large, yet they didn't hinder her movements at all. The minotaur was blinded, its eyes pierced, it swung wildly, and the situation became critical. It was about to be crushed by rocks, but at the critical moment, Tama unleashed a wild roar, blowing everything away and saving them. The little girl was also crushed by the rocks. Arya was relieved, and then stabbed the minotaur in the heart. This was the first time she had defeated a monster of this level, so she was very happy. She considered him a strong male in the future and planned to ask for breeding rights from him after bringing back the resources. The cute older sister also praised the juniors. Anna looked at the stab wound and realized that Arya had grown stronger. She was happy for them. When they first arrived, the elf was very weak, but now she had grown so much. So the couple bought wine to celebrate this happy day. Just finished today, Arya was truly grateful to her friend for the invitation. She was in love with a rank B blacksmith, so she suggested forming an official team. In terms of personality, they were a perfect fit. With support like Vunson's, their team would be stronger than ever. Arya was happy because she had always played solo before. She stepped in to act as a bridge between the two sides because that lady also lost sleep that night when these two girls used 4 grapefruits to pin her down. If it were a normal kitten, it would probably be holding its breath. But then, suddenly seeing the Tamdu River in front of him, he was also happy, considering this life wasn't meaningless. Suddenly, the status board announced that he had achieved the second form of being. He still wanted to be like this more, but couldn't avoid being discovered. The next period of time for the three of them was extremely smooth, making everyone happy. After going out, the couple unexpectedly saw a little girl being beaten because she was an orphan and no one came to help. Arya intervened, making the two bullies shy away because they knew Tama was the elemental cat who had beaten man to death. The other girl was saved. She introduced herself as La, explaining that she lived a wandering life. The little elf brought her to a place considered a new home, a church that nurtured many children in difficult circumstances. They all knew Arya, so they also greeted her. La Ele's case was received by the nun. Tama, seeing his owner's nobility in entrusting homeless children to the church, often came to take care of them again. But Beam was more determined to protect this smile at all costs. A few days later, they were called to the guild by Anna for something. It turned out that today was the day Arya received her new rank card, so she congratulated her. But not long after that, she found out that the neighboring city was experiencing numerous disappearances. According to the information his sister knew, the main reason was demons, which made the three of them worry. Their actions were so obvious that it was highly likely they were plotting something. Arya wanted to know more, making Vunson a bit worried. She asked if Arya was serious. Arya said she couldn't ignore it, fearing many victims would be caught. She hated the demon clan since childhood and didn't want to miss this opportunity. Even though she knew they would be in danger, her friend heard that and wanted to try together. Sister Anna said this time they would be accompanied by the strongest knights. One of them had just arrived. He explained that Sir Cedric was the eldest son of the Duke's family, admired by many people. He was considered the protector of the Labyrinth City and was also an acquaintance of kin, making this mission seem a little easier. Arya greeted politely, making the young man quite happy. He told her not to be so stiff. Beam had heard the story about this hero before. During a battle of an extremely large scale called Ragnarok, a war between humans and the demon god, when things became most tense, a group of humans with superior power appeared, ending Ragnarok in a flash. Sir Cedric was hailed as a great magician who helped humanity win the victory. With just one magic spell, he wiped out the entire enemy formation. Arya wondered because they still hadn't identified the enemy. Whether there were many enemies or not, she was afraid that going with this number of people would be difficult. The cute lady said to rest assured, because if Cedric was serious, the guy was truly awesome. Anna had been playing with him for a long time, so she knew him very well and even acted intimately. The elf girl saw them like that and thought they were in love. It was truly amazing. After hearing it, she was confused and didn't understand. Somehow, the next morning, the master and servant of this house had prepared everything before leaving. Arya looked tense, making me worry that if she left like that, her fighting ability would be affected. So, I tried to comfort the mistress, reassuring her that this mission involved the hero team, so it was understandable that they were more tense than usual. Tamma came to lick Arya's cheek, making her startled and forget all her worries. He wanted to encourage himself. The little one also kissed him, and he said that recently he had begun to understand the little cat better. The important thing was that Arya was truly in love with Beam. He felt her heart beating very fast, so he was also happy. They studied military tactics with other members, including Denny and HW, who were light warrior class. Two pretty sisters were also present, making everyone much more enthusiastic. It seemed they were all of Kin's customers before. The elf girl also introduced herself as Arya with the elemental cat, Tamma. Seeing that, the brothers and sisters gathered to watch, as cats were rare and cute. Tamma was carried by the two beautiful sisters, lying on some strange grapefruit. Min had nothing to describe. He enjoyed it to the fullest, planning to play with the skinny cat when suddenly a group of monsters appeared, blocking the way. They didn't understand why they were there, but it was definitely not good. They prepared to fight. Danny was sent to clear the road. This guy was very strong. Without using any skills, he could still take down everyone in the blink of an eye. Arya was shocked because the power of the heroes in the Age of Chaos was truly terrifying. Every member of the team had experienced Ragnarok, so their power was invincible. Beam, an S-rank hero, also became excited, wanting to fight with the knights in the team. They fought until evening and then stopped at a village to rest. The people here had time to receive them, but had to report the current situation immediately. The disappearances were still ongoing. Previously, the Vanguard team had gone to the ruins of the Demon Clan, but no one had returned, so it was highly likely they had died. This reminded Arya of unpleasant experiences. The group would temporarily rest, but fighting the demons at night was not the ideal situation. Sitting at the dining table, her daughter also asked why everyone became heroes. The two old men laughed and said they owed them too much money, so they had to fight to have something to eat. The two older women were even more special. They wanted to repay us. The soldiers who saved his father joined, which sounded quite heavy, so Arya had to apologize to everyone, happily considering this as normal. Sir Cedric said that he only considered women as friends. He couldn't love someone, so he couldn't inherit the family. Therefore, he had to be a knight like this for fun. Besides, he could kill freely, which was what he liked the most. The girls were scared when they heard that and didn't dare to ask any more questions. A moment later, the group of sisters started to take a bath and reminded him to always keep his body clean. He intended to go out, but was still forced to stay by the four girls. His heart felt like a giant fruit tray. He needed to cultivate and then love the cat. So, he also acted shy, not daring to face the S-class ball being stuck between the grapefruit slits. He just considered this a case of force majeure, but actually, he also really craved it. But just like that, Skinny Cat lay on his mistress's lap, enjoying the feeling of being massaged by a girl. The men's bathroom was right next door, so he heard the girl's screams and couldn't stand it. He was about to run over, but the Skinny Cat blocked his way. The cat didn't want anyone to invade its territory, so it used its skills to throw those two guys into the sky. In the end, only the ghost got to enjoy all the pleasures of life. The next day, everything was over. They started to go deep into the ruins. Sure enough, there were demons here. After discovering a human subjugation team, the leader was extremely confident. He would let everyone log out. The prey had come to find them like this, so it was less work to catch them very quickly. The temporary team encountered the first monsters. These wolves were all C-rank, so there was nothing significant. The shield-holding brother used the call skill, summoning them over. I was surprised. As soon as most of the monsters gathered, he used his extraordinary muscular strength to crush a bunch of the remaining monsters. Then, the two knights smashed all their balls. The captain was so happy. He also rushed in to cut the person in half. Seeing that the sword was still as delicate as before, I was very happy that Cedric had not weakened at all. Arya didn't want to lose, so she called Tam to support the enemy reinforcements who had just arrived. The S-ranked beam also had a place to act. He was a bit hesitant about using the skill, but still did it. This was a new move he learned that could shoot out a jet of water at very high pressure. Just like that, the wolves were poked through and subdued. The owner was surprised. She didn't expect cats to have such strong skills. The knights were no exception, because they were no different from warriors like them. Witnessing this scene through the orb, the demon looked angry and wondered if it was an elemental cat. He hated this species so much that he wanted to personally go into battle. His army had prepared something very special. I'm afraid that everyone was currently giving compliments to the elemental cat, Siri. I've seen this species before, but Tama was the most special, possessing countless moves. This was also true because the body was really good, and it was controlled by an experienced holy knight. Arya saw that he was being praised so much, and she loved him even more. She thought that when he grew up, he would use his domineering power to subdue her and make her do it. Things got tough as they continued moving. They came face to face with the leader. He knew even if he brought other monsters, they would all be defeated. So he went to battle quickly. The guy introduced himself as Barrow, one of the survivors of the demon clan in the great battle of the past. Hearing that, the knights realized that these people kidnapped people to take revenge on him, and did not hesitate to say that this was just a stepping stone for a bigger plot. At the same time, he called his subordinates, the A-rank monsters with extremely strong recovery abilities. The knights were surprised. Unexpectedly, this guy alone could command so many terrible monsters. Cedric asked to spread out, but being surrounded was a bit troublesome. Everyone followed, but this was also Barrow's wish. Immediately, he activated the prepared barrier, splitting the formation to make it easier to steal. Tamama was unlucky and had to fight alone, but he didn't show any fear. On the contrary, he was more worried about Arya than anything else. I guess that the other guy's forte was team fighting, so he made a scene like this. Their group dying here was to signal the end of the mission. Revenge had begun. In terms of fighting ability, the monsters were not too strong, but their regeneration ability was the big problem. Even though they blew off an arm, in a few seconds, 4 of them were restored. I was stealing alone, but the 3 knights also told the captain to start making trouble because this kind of enemy was Cedric's specialty. The others thought they should just unleash their power and attack quickly. The young man followed suit and rushed in, slashing with his weapon, which was very special, causing the opponent's vitality to be drained. This was truly a different beast from other monsters. There was no vitality regeneration. Barrow called this the extremely rare dark attribute magic power in the world. He remembered that in the Great War of the past, only the greatest magicians were able to use it. He completely didn't recognize it. The hero, who was right here next to the rank S soldiers, was having trouble dealing damage, and they were recovering as before. He thought it would be simple to transform into the second form, but he no longer considered himself an elemental cat. That was a big deal. So, Tama tried to burn all the mats, continuously shooting fire at the person to prevent the wounds from healing. Seeing this scene, the leader was quite angry. He was held back by Vutsin and Arya, unable to reach the place where the couple coordinated to obscure her vision with smoke and dust while allowing her to use terrifying speed. The attack was so sudden that the other guy got hit too. At first, he thought the wound would heal, but no. Arya's power was used to counter the demon's ability. However, she was also slashed by a blow from a poison knife. Barrow, before dying, gave a warning to humanity. This is just the beginning of the destruction because they have revived someone very strong. The poison on Arya's body began to spread, but there was no cure. CCK was worried because this was Dragon's poison, so they ran back to the city to find a cure. Sadly, no one here could save this case. Arya was left with only half a day to live. The doctor said that no one had ever escaped the death sentence when infected with this poison. The only way to save her was to use the eyes or heart of a monster of the same rank as the Earth Dragon. Hearing this, he didn't think much. The ghost immediately flew to the labyrinth where she was born. This life was picked up by her, so no matter what, she had to save Arya. The enemy, an old Earth Dragon, met them and looked surprised when Min ran away and then came back. Behemoth said, "I will let him log out," making the Earth Dragon laugh. "A weak person like Min dares to say that to me? This time, I want to bleed you dry right away." The Earth Dragon has therefore transformed into its second form, which is much larger than Beam. Tama breathed fire to burn, but the dragon wasn't affected. Immediately, Tama was hit by the move and lost his ability to defend. However, this was Tama's plan. He knew that if he fought normally, he still wouldn't be able to win, so he accepted getting injured. The Earth Dragon, seeing the skinny cat change shape, thought he had become stronger and became less careful. Unexpectedly, she was also defeated in the next 2 moves. Then, He used his skill to lightly take the opponent's iron life, ending the match. The battle had just ended when Tama's body turned back into a cat because he had used up too much strength, and the injuries he suffered had almost left him with no strength to move. However, because of his owner urged him to try a little more, he put the monster's body into the inventory and flew back to the village at high speed. Arya was still suffering from the lingering pain of the spreading poison. Her arm was badly injured, making everyone sad. At this time, Skinny Cat had returned with the necessary things. Everyone witnessed this scene, not understanding what had happened, but more importantly, they had to save Arya, so they began to prepare medicine. While in coma, Arya dreamed of the past when she was 13 years old. Her hometown was attacked by demons, and countless people died, but they didn't stop and wanted to find the Philosopher's Stone, the elf clan that kept. Arya was also attacked, scared to the point of wetting herself, thinking that life had ended there. Suddenly, an elemental cat appeared. That's also the reason why she loves Thomas so much now. How many times was she saved by this lovely creature? She knew in this life she would marry him and give birth to his child. By morning, the poison was no longer life-threatening. Her best friend and her brothers and sisters were very happy. Last night, she was very close to death. Luckily, she still made it through. It was truly a miracle. Everything came back to her later because she had completed the mission. When Anna received the news that her sister was about to die, she immediately ran out to greet her and cried so much that for many days after that, Arya stayed home to completely recuperate because the effects of the poison were very strong, causing her immune system to weaken. Tama's master's health had weakened, and she often got sick during his master's rest. Tama constantly goes to the dungeon to train himself, so that the same thing won't happen to her again. After defeating the female dragon, the evolution to become Beam was disabled. It's not known if it was because he was too badly injured or something else. In return, he got a few new moves from the Earth Dragon, and also because the female dragon was more inclined towards fighting ability, so this skill is very powerful. His first opponent was a Minotaur, but Skinny Cat easily swallowed it, recreating the scene of himself being painfully bitten by the Earth Dragon. What level is worthy of being called a powerful and extremely scary S-class monster? He was about to use a new move when another strong person discovered him. He didn't understand why a girl from Lack came here like this. That girl was happy because she finally found her lover and called Tama the strong one. She also held a piece of the armor Tama wore the day before. Sniffing it, she asked if Skinny Cat had turned into a behemoth again, which surprised her. Before she could understand what was going on, the old woman asked to mate. It was true that Tama was scared to death and ran as fast as he could go back to Arya's house. She tried to chase after him, but Tama was too strong and hid in a narrow gap. She caught him, she saw him, and he ran away, she said. She swore that next time she would definitely have his child. The young man quickly returned to his room and immediately crawled into the grapefruit slit to feel some peace. He wondered what kind of girl she was that kept following him. Tama told she felt familiar, as if he had seen her a few times, he thought. After about a week, Arya had completely recovered, so she started going out for a walk. Tama was also fed, dressed beautifully but looking a bit perverted. It was clear that the cat was fine and allowed to wear a skirt. In return, she also got to enjoy a peaceful feeling with his owner, who gave birth to a girl there. She mentioned that others told her that the dragon's body being found right next to the wounded kitten. Of course, she understood that it was Tama who risked his life to save her. But seeing that the Skinny Cat didn't seem to want to talk, she didn't ask anything more. Being together like this was fun, okay, but a bit sad. Every time, I was saved by everyone, she said. This has been happening since I was little, not just now. It seems like fate has arranged for Arya to always have someone else stand up to protect the holy sword. The person who brought peace back to her hometown, Alicia. So, after growing up, she said goodbye to her mother to learn from her savior, and changed her fate to save people instead of letting anyone save her anymore. Her mother also really supported this decision, but up to now, Arya still can't change. After listening, Tama tried to comfort her and said, "We will be together forever, so don't worry." And in that battle, it was Arya who defeated Beryl, so there was nothing to be sad about. Next morning, the couple was at Vulcan's blacksmith shop to get new equipment. During the rest time, the cat had created enough of the things that suited them recently. They had earned quite a bit of money, so buying new equipment was also natural. The reward from defeating demons and the money from selling the bodies of monsters that Tama had collected meant that now both of them didn't have to worry. If you have enough food to eat, you need to get money, then buy all the good materials to make Arya's stuff. You can also try it on. There's nothing to complain about. Dressing cool like this will help speed and mobility become smoother. Of course, durability and defense were still guaranteed to be tested. They immediately went to the labyrinth because they hadn't been able to fight recently, so Arya was a bit nervous. Knowing that, Tama immediately used a magic spell, touching the spirit. Its effect was no different from the words of the bamboo tree. It could resist both fire and ice, and at the same time increase the stats of the whole team a bit, making the two girls proud. Believe it or not, the owner had to thank the cat. She was afraid she wasn't good enough. But as soon as they met the first monster, Arya rushed in without using any skills. Her speed had reached a level where the monster couldn't keep up. Since childhood, both her armor and weapon were amazing. The girl from the day before felt it, so she came to her grandmother and expressed excitement because no matter where she ran, she still had to come here to hunt monsters. The friend thought she was an adventurer, but looking at her thin clothes, she didn't look like one. Arya asked her name, and she said she was born from the darkness. She didn't have a name or age. Hearing that, the elf confirmed that this person had lost her memory, so they wanted to bring her home. They were shocked when she kept asking to mate with him. She stood still for a moment, wondering where this little girl came from and why she was so big. She was about to rush in and steam the little cat when Arya stopped her. Arya again said Tama was still young and couldn't mate, otherwise, she would have done it a long time ago. Knowing this was the owner of the strong one, the other girl was also shy and accepted to follow. Because of that, they would be able to be with the person they loved every day. Arya also made sure to protect Tama, so he wouldn't have to be afraid. On the way back, she saw that the old lady didn't have a name, which was inconvenient. So Arya also called her Stella, a name from her hometown. This is a word that describes the beauty of tone, and it also sounds very nice. Meow also secretly praised the talented owner, saying naming is also very delicate. Somehow, the little girl heard the voice of Tama and accepted it. From now on, she would be Stella. The first place they went was the bathroom to purify her new friend. For the first time in her life, touching the small soap, she looked very happy. Not only did it remove stains, but it also smelled good. Stella also liked it. Bathing should be splashed with water like this, she said. She didn't know how to describe the feeling. Seeing Arya scrubbing Tama, she was jealous and wanted to try, but was refused. This was the privilege of the owner. Other people couldn't touch. That night, Stella called her to wake up and talk. The surprise was that they communicated through the telepathy of the monster. Tama was so shocked that he didn't understand what kind of person she was. She was so good that she could understand the language he spoke. That's amazing. But now she just said that the day before, she was killed in the maze. The two of them had talked about it. What else? Tama still didn't understand. So, being enlightened, she was the one who said it. Hey dragon, this is her, but she was reincarnated into a human body. Her story is just as cool as mine. Since birth, she was a strong person who considered herself a strong person living in the dark maze, even though no one taught her. But she still easily eliminated the other monsters. Time passed. No one was old enough to touch Stella anymore, until she met Tama and was defeated by him last time. Even though it was humiliating, in her subconscious, she wanted to reincarnate again to meet the strong one who defeated her, to ask for a child. This is the instinct of a species to obey the one who defeated it. After awakening again at the labyrinth, Stella knew her target. Her goal was to find him again, and also understand that the reason she could be reborn was because she previously possessed a hidden skill that could only be activated upon death. Based on the smell from the piece of armor Tama left behind, she groped her way out. Finally being with the person she loved made her feel scared and worried, but the girl said she had already submitted, so don't worry, she wouldn't be attacked. However, Tama must definitely have a baby with her because he is the first male she recognized as a strong man. It is understandable that she fell in love with him. She was planning to sow the seeds tonight, but was stopped by Arya. Stella did not understand why but was very afraid of the elf, and did not dare to argue back. Arya affirmed that the cat was her pet, so there was no way to take him. The other woman had to wait for another opportunity, but wanted to remember one thing, that she loved him very much. This confession sounds fun, but he was scared somehow because the other person is a dragon in human form, not much different from him. The next day, Stella was finally able to try the cake. Hamburger looked excited. She ate like it was the best thing ever, which was rare. In her past life as a dragon, she only ate monster meat. But here, not only the food, but the drinks were delicious too. Arya was very relaxed, sharing her food with Stella while eating bread. She even used telepathy to talk to the skinny cat about his owners. Stella thought Arya was strange. If a strong creature like her was following me, I would act cool, but she was very kind and not arrogant at all. Tama said Arya was her master. He truly loved her and will protect her forever. Stella thought Arya must be very strong for Tama to say that. He told Stella not to say anything about me being an S-class monster. If they found out, Tama wouldn't be able to stay with his master. That girl looked silly, but she wasn't very nice. Stella threatened the strong man. If he didn't marry her, she would tell everyone about him. Luckily for Stella, she was just kidding. The dragon's pride wouldn't let her do that. After hearing that, Tama felt relieved and played with his head. Skinny Cat told her to call him Tama from now on. Not strong man. Arya couldn't hear what they were saying, but the way they looked at each other showed they were talking. After eating, Arya took her new friend to explore the town. Because she still thought Stella had amnesia, the elf wanted to help Stella to restore the moment which she had before they met. Stella looked scared, so the elf thought she remembered something small. Stella said Arya treated Tama, the strongest creature, like a pet, so she was scared but still kept the secret. She also understood the world of monsters. Big fish eat small fish. Stella was defeated once, so she thought Arya was the strongest because she could give orders to Tama. Arya wanted to help Stella remember her memories quickly. The elf asked if she wanted to train as an adventurer. Stella agreed right away, as long as they could fight. It sounded fun. To register, they needed weapons, so they went to Voltson's blacksmith shop. They had everything, and Stella even got a new outfit. She looked excited because it was the only kind of clothing that suited her. Dresses were too hard to move in, too annoying, like showing off. But it didn't matter because she was used to it. Their first adventure would be the maze, so Arya told them to at least wear gauntlets. Stella said she could handle it herself. She used her skill to change parts of herself into dragon form, surprising everyone. They called her Dragon now. Even though she didn't understand, she knew this form showed her strength. Dragon Newt are rare individuals who can transform parts of their bodies into dragons. This is great because no one suspects they are monsters. Arya and Vulcan were very excited because they had never seen this before. The blacksmith even shouted, this flexible and strong tail would be a great weapon. Stella, a dragon, was worried about being treated like just materials. The costume problem was solved, so now they needed to choose the right weapon. There were many weapons here, and the cat friend even let her choose anything she liked. Stella was very interested in swords, so she wanted one. Vulcan also asked about Arya's equipment to see if it was okay. Stella accidentally found a huge shield in the room and surprised the others. No one could use this heavy shield, so it had been kept there for a long time. Stella, even in human form, was still very strong. It was scary. The blacksmith asked if she would use the sword or a shield, but the little dragon was excited. This was the first time someone asked her about her weapon choice. The shield was related to Stella's last battle. After being defeated, Stella realized the importance of defense. Now that she was reborn as a human, she had to be more careful. Seeing that Stella was worried about the incident that killed her, she acted strong and told him not to worry. In fact, she was grateful. Being defeated for the first time helped her understand true strength. All these years, she had been like a frog in a well, not knowing there were other strong people. Stella also chose a great sword to use with the shield. The preparation was complete. The three friends and a cat entered the maze to test the dragon's fighting ability, even though they weren't officially registered yet. Arya asked Tama to protect her new friend, but he thought to himself, they are the ones who need protection. Suddenly, a giant monkey attacked. Arya wanted to help, but she realized it was useless. The other woman was very strong and easily defeated two of the monkeys with her sharp claws. But Arya thought it was a waste to bring weapons if she was going to fight like that. Stella used her great sword to smash him to pieces. Witnessing this was scary because her fighting style was so wild. Even though she was human, she was still an earth dragon. Stella was extremely aggressive and had a tendency to want to kill. If she didn't control herself, she would definitely cause trouble for her owner. Tama thought her memory loss was causing her to fight instinctively. He didn't know how to explain it, so he just let it go. Since the current team was stronger, they went to the deeper floors. The dragon girl confidently declared that the monsters here were no match for someone as strong as her. Nearby were some large pigs, perfect for testing shields. Usually, people use shields to block, but since Stella was too strong, she just punched the enemy directly. The other child saw this and trembled, but was still eliminated. Even though she leaned towards strength, Arya and Vulcan said to be careful with the next opponent. On the next floor, they encountered a slimy monster, and everyone had some crazy thoughts of them being crazy, with a fighting style that countered Stella's. Stella was stronger, but she still felt that this monster was a difficult opponent for someone who had just reincarnated. To avoid embarrassing her, she rushed in to fight and was immediately controlled. The monster spat out mucus, making Stella muddy and unable to fight properly. Seeing his friend in trouble, Tama had to act. He was afraid his 2 wives would be possessed by that disgusting thing, so he activated a new skill. He grew a few tails and used them to pull them away. With Tama's snake skills, it was easy to defeat this monster. He just shot from a distance, and it was done. Stella was awakened by the cat and asked what happened. She thought it was just a low-level monster, but the little dragon cried out that her body was still affected by the battle with Tama, causing her to lose control. Tama felt guilty and hoped she would forget about this incident soon. The other 2 comforted her. Tama said, "From now on, I will protect you too," making Stella extremely happy. She promised to fight more humanely and forget her fear. The cat friend also offered to teach her how to use the shield and sword properly after they returned. She was very excited because their team would become even stronger. Hearing the word teammate, Stella remembered how adventurers in the past, though weak, had strong solidarity. They always died together. Arya suddenly got angry because she didn't expect the kitten to have such long tentacles. She wanted to pull them out and wrap them around her body, just like he did to her. He was speechless and turned into a red tomato. She was planning to tease him, but Vulcan stopped her because they were in the dungeon. Other girl was also jealous, but since her friend was Min's boss, she didn't dare say anything. After a while of fighting, Stella started to get used to using the swords of the other 2. She began to instruct her friend on how to fight. In a small battle team, the one who absorbs damage gives the others a chance to attack. Stella was good at both offense and defense, so Arya asked her to take the hits. Tama thought the plan was reasonable. However, Tama was still worried because that little girl still couldn't control her bloodlust. Nearby, seeing a herd of pigs, the dragon girl followed the plan and took the damage. She also conveniently slashed one of them, scaring the pigs out of them. Stella chased after them. Tama asked her, who would leave their position like that? I knew it would end up like this, so he had to support the 2 of them. After receiving powers from Skinny Cat, the couple finished bombing the pigs easily. On the first day of fighting together, Stella was very happy. Later, everyone went to the safe area to take a bath. Tama, looking at Grapefruit, called down to play with water. He told himself to always be alert, as a holy knight should. However, when the owner let me lie on Grapefruit, I didn't resist at all. Immersed in pleasure, the other 2 girls were jealous. Stella also wanted to hug him, so she stood up to demand her rights after Arya. She realized that Arya was not strong at all. The weak cannot be with Tama. The elf resolutely refused to cut the kitten out, and Min also liked Arya's 2 grapefruits more. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, she stood up to stop them and said that Tama belonged to Arya, and there was no need to monopolize anything. After Arya became the main wife, she and Stella was Tama's second wife. It was a pity for the cat, stuck in the ravine, unable to breathe. After returning to the guild, they introduced Anna to their new teammate. The little dragon knew at first sight that this lady was not ordinary. When they came to register, she introduced them to a special mission. Mr. Elday wanted to hire an escort for Arya. It was a very trustworthy mission. The other lady introduced them to the item needed for transporting the goods, which was extremely valuable. Vulcan was busy, so she couldn't go this time. Only Stella and the elf were left. They later went to see the item and were surprised to realize that it was Stella's corpse. Seeing herself like that, the other girl was shocked and stood still for a moment. Mr. Rice explained that the creature's bones weren't fully formed even at its death. He was so engrossed, he almost missed something important. He bit on the bones, worried his friend might be upset if he didn't. But instead of being upset, his friend cried. Seeing the bones reminded her of a horrible scene where hostages were killed. She was shaking with emotion. Stella also got angry, which made Tama worried. He thought she would be affected by the memory. But before they left, Anna gave her sister a new card. It showed she was now a B-class adventurer. This made sense, because Arya was now stronger and had Skinny Cat to help her. Vulcan was happy for her friend and hugged and congratulated her. They celebrated until morning when they set off. They couldn't all go together right away because they were busy with some things. But her tiger-eared friend promised to catch up with them as soon as she was done. On their way, while escorting them, they ran into some strange pig-like creatures. Arya easily defeated them. It was even easier with Stella and Tama's help. By evening, Mr. Rice gave Arya a very beautiful flower. He wasn't attracted to her. The flower belonged to his fiancée, Eliza. He often picked these flowers for her. That's why Tama didn't sense any bad intentions from him. When Lau looked at the owner, Arya asked what the dragon bone set would be used for. Mr. Rice said his friend often collected rare materials to make weapons. Maybe a big battle was coming, so he would sell the bones to him. Hearing this, Arya was shocked and worried. Tama remembered the demon's warning that someone had been revived. They planned to go to another city the next day, just to be sure. Stella had fallen asleep on her own corpse. Suddenly, the space around them changed. Tama felt it, and immediately ran outside. He was very shocked because the area had turned into a forest. Arya and Mr. Rice also woke up urgently. Before the new maze appeared, Mr. Rice said he had heard about this kind of thing before. He was pretty sure what was happening. Luckily, they realized it early and escaped. The elf girl wanted to come back and explore after they finished the escort. She said they would be the first to enter this maze, so the chance of finding rare items would be high. This is what most adventurers dream of. After reaching a safe price, Mr. Rice let them explore the labyrinth. He knew that the first chance to explore was always special. The guild also really wanted to buy valuable items from them. Arya agreed and told Stella and Tama to get ready. Because this was an unexplored labyrinth, they had to be very careful. Tama used his skills to boost the two girls' confidence. Stella was eager to fight, but Arya stopped her. Before that, Voltson gave Stella a note that would make her cooperate. It said, "If you help in the fight, Stella can hug Tama once." Hearing that, she immediately backed down, pretending to obey. When Tama was brought out as a reward, he felt helpless but had to accept it to help her friend. Suddenly, a voice called out, asking if they were looking for treasure. "If you are," it said, "follow me." Stella, excited, followed the voice, but it was a dead end. Then, several monsters appeared. Tama suspected a trap, but they had to deal with the monsters first. Stella, bloodthirsty, urged the monsters to attack him. Since the enemy was provoked, it was easy for Arya and Tama to act. After defeating the monsters, Stella told him she cooperated because of him, not because of her friend. Just then, the voice spoke again. This time, there were two voices. They belonged to elves and fairies, very rare creatures. They introduced themselves. One was Lily, and the green friend was Fairy. Stella, surprised, asked if they were tasty. It was funny, but the elf explained that they were residents of the jungle called Love. It was the first time she'd ever seen them, so she introduced the others as well. She noticed the cat. Stella was angry because her goods were stolen and wanted them back so she could hug him. Tama agreed, since this land wasn't our enemy. He told Stella to calm down, but she wouldn't listen. She insisted that the two were trying to trap us. Lily explained that there really was treasure here, and that's why she brought them here. Fairy added that she wanted to be friends. To show their sincerity, she offered to lead them to it. The little girl used magic to make a treasure chest appear. When she opened it, the item inside was very beautiful and probably very valuable. Mr. Rice would probably know its worth. When she got back, she would ask her two little friends about it. They said there were many more around. To get them, they needed a key over there. Lily and Fairy cheered for Tama to defeat the swarm of bees and get the item. Stella jumped in to block the damage, meowing. Tama took the chance to use Lion's roar to blow away the enemy very quickly. They got the key, but it wasn't to open the treasure chest. It was something they could use to fight the insects in the maze. After completing it, they would definitely get a reward. Lily and Fairy offered to lead the way, but Arya wanted to return to the city first. She said that making the customers wait too long would hurt their reputation. Besides, they were already allowed to explore, so they should know their limits. The elf wanted to prepare carefully before fighting the boss. The other two friends asked to go with her because they also wanted to see a human city. They were curious about what it would be like. The group arrived safely. Lily and Fairy were about to run off, but Arya scolded them. She explained that as a rare race, they would be kidnapped and sold if they went to lack. Arya outlined the schedule. First, visit the city, then go to Mr. Rice to ask about the value of the item. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw the two girls eating other people's food, and Arya had to pay for them. Fairy suddenly felt guilty, but was still invited by Arya. Later, they went to see the old man to appraise the item they'd gotten. It was called the Drop of Truth. If given to a criminal, they would definitely tell everything. Arya knew its uses and was shocked. The old man said his shop couldn't appraise it, so he advised them to find a bigger place. Just then, Lily and Fairy came in, shocking the old man. He felt like he had been searching for them for a long time. When Arya asked what was wrong, he said it was the first time he'd seen a fairy, so he was a bit surprised. He then pretended to have urgent matters and left without explaining anything. By evening, the sisters rented a hotel and relaxed. Little Lily, being so small, crawled into Arya's cleavage and said she was hiding there. They were playing around. Stella was so happy that she joined in, which shocked Skinny Cat, who felt like her owner was being attacked. After bathing, her dragon friend asked for a reward, but was given one by Tama and the crying lady, who looked pitiful. So, Arya told Tama to let her friend hug her. After all, Stella had done her job very well that day. Hearing that, Skinny Cat also followed, making the dragon girl happy. It seemed she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. She carefully picked up her friend to play with and sniffed the cat's body. Seeing this scene, Arya was quite happy because her friend enjoyed it so much. At this time, Vulcan had finished her work and immediately ran to find her group of friends, unaware that she had become prey. Suddenly, she saw a monster appear. She defeated it and then heard a bell. The next morning, Arya returned to the maze to conquer the boss after using the key to open a door. The boss had descended to welcome them. The elite couple would be outside and couldn't fight together. Stella was excited because they were about to fight a strong opponent, a B-class creature that was quite tough, called a drake. It actively attacked first, but the dragon blocked it with her shield. Then, she rushed in to clear the way with her speed. Arya was able to sneak behind, but Tama was still targeted. Tama intended to help, but Stella was faster and stepped in to block the attack, saying she would attract its attention. Tama, seeing this amazing change, praised his friend. Stella switched to combat mode, using the dragon's extraordinary strength to hold the drake back. Seeing it was open, Tama fired fire magic, which burned the drake because it was a wood type. This method was very effective. Arya took the opportunity to rush in and deliver the finishing blow. Tama meowed while carefully using her tentacle to block the opponent so that her owner could freely attack. After stabbing the boss's throat, the drake fell to the ground. This was the first time they had defeated the labyrinth boss. Stella took credit for herself, having bravely taken the damage, thinking she would get the treasure. Inside, however, was the elf girl's skill scroll. After reading it, Arya learned a new move. This skill was very special, with divine attributes. Everyone was happy again. However, Lily and Fairy were not there. Only 2 jars of honey were knocked over. It seemed like something had happened to them, making everyone worried. On the other side, the person who rang the bell last night near Vulcan was unexpectedly Mr. Rice. Looking at the picture of his fiancée, he said, "Just a little more," hinting at something.
Hey there, darling. I know this is a new channel, but I really need your support, so please hit that subscribe button. It's just like joining a squad, and trust me, you don't want to miss out on all the fun. So come on, darling. Let's dive into more epic recaps together. Once again, please subscribe.